So let me ask, have any of you ever felt like someone wasn't paying attention to you? Have you ever had the experience of trying to get somebody's attention when maybe they were doing something else and just sort of saying their name over and over, Mom, Mom, Mom? You think you've ever done that? See a true confession up here. Have you ever felt like you were trying to get someone's attention when what you had to say was really important and they still weren't listening to you? People have felt like that too? Yeah, that happens to us too. That's not a particularly nice way to feel, is it? Do people ever feel that way about the Lord? Like He's not paying attention, or like He can't hear what they're trying to say to Him? I think people feel that way about the Lord sometimes. I'm going to read a story from the Word where the Lord's disciples feel like the Lord isn't paying any attention to them at all. In this story, they're crossing the Sea of Galilee in a little boat. The story says that when evening had come, the Lord said to the disciples, "Let us cross over to the other side." And when they had left the multitude, they took Him along in the boat as He was, and other little boats were also with Him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling. But He was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. And they awoke Him and said to Him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Then He arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But He said to them, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, "Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey Him?" So in that little boat that the disciples were in, probably all 12 of them and the Lord, they were in the lake, and there was a storm. And the waves were big enough that they were crashing into the boat, and they were afraid that the boat was going to fill up with water and sink. That sounds scary? Any of you ever been on a boat and felt scared? Scared of the boat sinking? Me too, for sure. Especially if it's kind of a little boat. And probably very few of us have been on lakes and little boats when there was a real storm with big waves and wild wind. That was pretty scary. And the disciples looked to see what the Lord was doing. And maybe they thought He was helping them row or helping them get the water out of the boat, but no. You remember what He was doing? What did it say the Lord was doing? He was asleep. He was at the back of the boat with a pillow, and He was asleep. And you can sort of understand why the disciples were a little mad or had a hard time believing that that was what He was doing. They woke Him up and they said, "We're dying. Don't you care? Don't you care that this boat is sinking? What are you doing?" Do any of you, particularly you adults, feel like you've ever said anything like that to the Lord? "I'm dying over here. Haven't you noticed?" People sometimes feel like the Lord really isn't paying attention, or like He doesn't even see what's going on, almost like He is asleep. But in the story, when they did wake up the Lord, the problem that had seemed so big just went away. The Lord just stood up and He told the lake and He told the wind, "Be still." And imagine seeing all of those big waves that were so scary just go and become quiet. And then the Lord said to the disciples, "How is it that you have no faith? Why did you not believe that everything would be okay once you called on me? Didn't you know that as soon as you had my help, you'd be just fine? There's sort of two ways we can look at this story. One way is the disciples were in a boat and they were afraid they were going to sink and the Lord was sleeping. And the other way we can look at the story is as soon as the disciples asked the Lord for help, everything was fine. As soon as the disciples asked the Lord to help them, the wind and the storm just went away. And he hadn't helped them before then because they hadn't asked him. Sometimes it seems like the Lord's not paying attention, but maybe what he's really doing is just waiting for us to ask him for his help. Did you know that the Lord will never help you without your permission? The Lord will never help you in ways that you don't want. He'll never help you if he thinks that you don't want his help. So he waits for you to ask him. He waits for you to say, please help me, Lord. And as soon as we say that, he helps us. And maybe things that seems like great big problems become a lot littler. And the last thing is that because the Lord is the Lord and because he loves us so much, he helps us even if what we say to him is, Lord, I'm dying, pay attention, wake up. He still helps us happily. He just gets up and does what we need. But do you think that there might be a little bit of a more polite way to ask the Lord for his help? What do you think? What's a more polite way? To ask in a polite voice? A soft voice, yes. To ask in a soft voice, and maybe even sometimes to use those polite words like please. Because when we talk to the Lord politely, that helps us remember that, yeah, the Lord really is going to make this all okay. Yeah, the Lord really is going to help me. And the good news is that even if we forget and we ask the Lord in a rude or an angry voice, where are you? I need your help right now. He always helps us. Amen.